Good afternoon and welcome back to Draven's Den, the place where history doesn't politely line itself up. And January continues to insist it's a reset while actively sabotaging everyone involved. This stretch of the month is where resolutions quietly go missing, plans start asking follow-up questions, and history reminds us that progress has never happened on a clean schedule. Today's episode is the end of the week roundup, covering January 20th through January 23rd. 4 days where big ideas collided with reality, and humanity did what it does best: improvise poorly and call it tradition. Let's get into it. On the last episode, I started a new segment called The Family Thread. And the story I started with was about my fifth great uncle, William the Patriot Knuckles. Well, this is part two. This is the cost of what it took to be the Patriot. Patriotism always sounds clean when you say it quickly. In reality, it was expensive. For William the Patriot Knuckles, choosing the revolutionary cause wasn't a speech or a dramatic moment. It was a series of decisions that slowly narrowed his options. Once loyalty was declared, there was no neutral ground left to stand on. Supporting the revolution meant risking property. Loyalist raids were common. Farms were burned, livestock taken, land seized or abandoned. Men like William often financed resistance themselves, supplying food, labor, or protection with no guarantee of repayment. Victory wasn't promised. Retaliation, however, was. There was also the cost of visibility. In tight communities, everyone knew where everyone stood. Being a patriot meant becoming a known quantity. It meant scrutiny. It meant threats that didn't arrive in letters, but in silence. Neighbors who stopped talking, trade that dried up, doors that didn't open anymore. And then there was the cost history almost never records: the years after. When the fighting ended, life didn't reset. Veterans returned to land that had been damaged or lost. Promises of compensation moved slowly or not at all. The revolution created a nation, but it didn't always rebuild the people who made it possible. For William, the cost wasn't martyrdom or glory. It was endurance, the willingness to absorb loss without knowing whether history would ever care enough to remember his name. That's the truth behind revolutions. Not triumph, but persistence. And that cost didn't end with him. It echoed forward, shaping the lives, habits, and expectations of the generations that followed. The aftermath always starts with the build. Now remember, folks, January is lying to you. January promises clarity. History delivers consequences. January 20th, it brings power, pageantry, and pressure. In government history, January 20th is synonymous with U.S. presidential inaugurations. A day designed to look orderly, hopeful, and controlled. But behind the ceremony is a logistical nightmare. Inaugurations have been delayed by blizzards, rushed by assassinations, and reshaped by emergencies. The image of smooth transfer exists mostly for public comfort. Power rarely changes hands cleanly. It's just staged that way. And in military history, on January 20th, 1942, the Wannsee Conference took place. Nazi officials met not to debate genocide, but to coordinate it. The chilling reality is that some of history's worst crimes were committed in meeting rooms, using calm language and administrative efficiency. Evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it schedules. In sports history, January 20th, 1968, saw the first Super Bowl played under the AFL-NFL merger agreement. It wasn't called the Super Bowl yet. and many sports writers dismissed it as a novelty. History loves pretending it knew what mattered from the start. It rarely did. And in January 20th, 1937, marked Franklin D. Roosevelt's second inauguration. Roosevelt, depends on how you say it. The first held on January 20th instead of March 1st. Even democracy eventually admitted waiting 4 months to transfer power was a bad idea. And January 21st, 1968, North Korean forces captured the USS Pueblo. The U.S. Navy lost the ship without firing a shot, and the crew endured 11 months of captivity. The incident exposed gaps between confidence and preparedness, the recurring theme in military history. And that same day in 1793, Louis XVI of France was executed. All right, now look, I'm going to stop for a second. It's XVI, just in case I got that wrong. All right, the monarchy didn't collapse in a single swing. It had been unraveling for years. The execution simply confirmed what everyone already felt. Revolutions don't begin with executions. They end them. In sports history, January 21st, 1990, marked the first time instant replay was used in an NFL playoff game. Fans argued it ruined the sport. Officials said it preserved fairness. Both were right. And in 1954, the first nuclear-powered submarine, the USS Nautilus, was launched. Its first message, underway on nuclear power. History officially engaged the age of quiet, unstoppable movement. And we get into January 22nd. In 1944, it saw the Allied landings at Anzio during World War II. Intended as a surprise maneuver, hesitation turned opportunity into stalemate. Momentum lost is rarely regained. History punishes indecision harshly. In 1973, the Supreme Court issued its decision in Roe v. Wade. Regardless of position, the ruling reshaped American political life permanently. Some decisions don't end debates. They create generations of them. And January 22nd, 2006 marks the final NHL game played at the old Maple Leaf Gardens. Buildings hold memory. When they close, eras go with them. And in January 22nd, 1896 marked the first public screening of X-ray images. People were thrilled and immediately afraid. Humanity has never met a breakthrough without wondering what it would do to us. Let's see. And January 23rd, 1968, North Korea seized the USS Pueblo. Yes, again. The story lingers because humiliation leaves longer scars than defeat. And in 1849, Elizabeth Blackwell became the first woman to earn a medical degree in the U.S., not because society was ready, but because persistence outlasted resistance. History advances because someone refuses to accept no as final. And January 23rd, 1988 saw Doug Williams become the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. It happened later than it should have, and faster than critics expected. Progress is rarely early, but it's always overdue. And let's see, 1556, the deadliest earthquake in recorded history struck China, killing an estimated 830,000 people. Entire regions vanished. History reminds us regularly, I think you guys know I love that word, that control is an illusion. Now let's get into some funny and strange. January continues to misbehave. January once convinced medieval Europeans that bathing was dangerous. The logic? Cold water invited death. Dirt was safer. And in January 1915, the U.S. briefly considered training pigeons to guide missiles. The pigeons perform well. The missiles did not. January is the month where the most official temporary laws quietly became permanent. Astronauts report that January missions generate the most complaints about food texture. Even in space, January ruins morale. January doesn't inspire reinvention. It exposes what was already fragile. If this week felt heavy, slow, or strangely familiar, that's not failure. That's the aftermath doing what it's always done. Now, you guys, I want you all to be safe out there. The East Coast and, well, wow, so most of the South is preparing for snow and sleet and rain and the sky's falling and Chicken Little's going nuts. But this time, Chicken Little's right. Sky will be falling. So you guys stay safe and enjoy the time indoors a little bit with your family and everything. This whole winter thing, it's almost over. And we can all go back outside and enjoy the sunshine and warm breezes. But thank you for spending the end of the week here at Draven's Den. I'm Stan, and that's a wrap.